more. I'll pat up your back. Just give me your hand. I'm taking you to Camber Sands.
That was Camber Sands, which is taken from the upcoming new album Good Grief by Bernard Butler. It's Bernard's first solo album for 25 years, having previously worked with, among others, Sam Lee, Jessie Buckley, David McCalmont, Bert Jansch and Ben Watt. Bernard, it's brilliant to have you on the show.
Yeah, nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
This is your first solo album for 25 years. Can I just ask why it's taken so long for you to make this record? You've described yourself as scarred and scared. What did you mean by that?
Well, I mean, there's two questions there. First of all,
Mm.
it didn't take me 25 years to make it, believe it or not.
Mm.
But I've made about 200 records in the meantime. So I've just been doing other things really, and working with other people. I mean, I always view all of them as my records. So whoever I'm working with, I just say, listen, this is my record anyway. And but well, all I meant by it is that the last time I made a record, it was quite a harsh experience, and harsh environment, and it kind of left me wanting to go off and do something else for a while, which I did, and I fell into all sorts of things, and just one thing leads to another. That's all. It's all part of the glorious spectrum of being a musician. You know, that is really lovely, that I'm really grateful to be part of. So it's not like it's not at all like it's not the way it's turned out to me. It turned out correctly for me or anything like that. It's just you know, I'm really happy working in any capacity as a musician. Really, you learn that over time, that it's really not about you being the drummer or the lead singer or the writer or anything really. I mean, you kind of think those when you make your first single when you're young, you know, and but you over time and experience, and I've got 35 years experience making records, and so over that time you realize the best bit is just being there, really, just being part of something when nice when it happens, something great, something that you hope will move other people, will mean something to other people's lives, you know. And when you're in the room and that's being created, it doesn't really matter what capacity you have, just as long as you're there and you're part of it. So I'm very happy that that's the way it's gone for me on many occasions.
You said that your first solo album, People Move On, you just said it was a harsh experience. You've also said that you weren't ready for that album at that part of your career. Can you just tell us a little bit about why?
Well, I wouldn't say that the first one was a harsh experience. I meant the second one. So I did the second one, Friends and Lovers, on Creation, and it came out the week that Creation was folded,
Right.
And everything fell apart. So the record just ended immediately. For me and lots of other artists as well, had the same experience. And it was just we were just sort of left in the lurch, and it coincided with the turn of the millennium as well, and the musical landscape just changed a little bit. And it was just yeah, it's when you're not really sure why you're doing something, or whether you have any support for it, anybody's interested in it. I think the harsh experience, I mean, is that I didn't feel like anybody really was interested in me doing it, in making records on my own. And so at that time, and you know, I got the picture, I got the message, and I thought, well, I'll do other things, you know, and lots of other things I did. People weren't interested in, but you develop the shell, the hard shell, to do what you feel is the right thing to do, in for yourself, for your life, and for the long term, making the right music at the right time, rather than just trying to do it for other people. So it's a good experience. I mean, all these things were positive. You know, you come out of it and you're like, well, that didn't work, or that I didn't feel very welcome doing something, but it's okay, because then I went and did other things that I did, where I can look back and see, well, that was, you know, worthwhile.
The title of the new album, Good Grief, is interesting. You've talked recently about the impact of trauma and grief in your life. And would you say that the new album is addressing that?
I'd say that there isn't anybody on the planet who doesn't experience those two words. And I
Mm,
think it's really more startling when I mention those words people prick up their ears as if to say, "Well, here we go, a musician who's a mess," and really want to zone in on it. And I kind of find that really a bit patronizing actually when that has happened to me. The people zone in it and because they kind of want to pick apart your private life or pick apart something about your mental state. And the very essence of it is for me to point it and to shine a light on the fact that basically this is going on with every single one of us at one or many times of our lives. And it's not an unusual thing. I'm not sitting here, terrified, shuddering in a corner or something. I'm lead a pretty ordinary life. I mean, literally 5 minutes before this interview, I was standing down filler off a ceiling. I've gone off this morning to buy a tub of paint. When I put this down, I'll be going back to doing that. That's my life. And
yeah,
but in reference to the title, yeah, I've experienced grief. I bet you have as well.
great.
If you haven't, if you haven't, then here's the bad news. You're going to, because it's the only definite thing. It's the only absolute thing that all of us will experience during our lifetime, and yet we're
Yeah,
still quite unprepared for it, and sort of, including me, quite in shock when it happens. And
yeah.
there's something quite farcical about it. I found there's something quite farcical about it when it's happened to me. The whole experience of funerals and watching
Mm,
decay and stuff, and obviously there's that sort of farce sense of humor about it gets you through it, gets us all through it. I mean, what do we do after a funeral? We all go and get drunk and laugh and stuff like that. It's quite an absurd thing, really. But
yeah,
it's yeah, and so I'm really shining a light on this that it's the word grief, that it can have very positive terms as well as it can work badly in your life, of course. Um, and But I'm also shining a light on the term good grief. It's just something that I was using or myself all of the time casually during that a period when I was experiencing some loss. And it said a lot about the record. The record isn't about grief at all. None of the songs are discussing grief. These are the things that are after. This is like a title that I came up with afterwards. But it's what it says to me is I am personally often amazed by my life, by where I am in the world, that I'm sitting here talking to a bloke in the West Country, in his kid's bedroom about grief. I think there's something really beautiful about how these things are bewildering. The fact I was talking to somebody the other day who was in Nashville, and he was telling me about the solar eclipse, which is about to happen,
mm,
and we were discussing the phenomenon where no matter all this it's extraordinary stuff that goes on in our lives and very traumatic stuff going on in many people's lives. Um, when something happens in the sky, we always tend to just want to go and stare at the sky,
mm,
awestruck,
yeah,
and we're sort of motionless. We don't really understand that. Most of us don't understand the science behind it or anything, but we're just
yeah,
sort of awestruck by something that's way out of our control. And I think that sort of shines a light on how we look at our own lives often. So I think it's a nice thing. Often I just think, wow, how have I got here? How am I still doing this? And
yeah.
how have I got away with this? So
Mm,
that's the kind of meaning, the double meaning, if you like, behind the title.
sure. Yeah, I found when I lost my father and sister within 18 months of each other that it it sort of changed my life. I can't really describe how, but it just changed perspective on pretty much everything. And, even now, you know, years after they've both, passed, it's really hard for me to understand why my life changed so much. But yeah,
You see how you're what you're describing is you're describing
mm,
your experience of it as well,
yeah,
because of course we can't comprehend that somebody's gone, but everything that's happening is happening to us,
yeah,
and our lives, yeah, for sure our lives change. It's easy to think also they just change without thinking, well, actually, are they better? Are the things that has this made me better? Is this given me some kind of wisdom, or some experience? And of course it does. And
Yes.
it can be it can be a very a positive outcome in that way, and it's just inevitable. But at the same time, we just still can't cope, can we? We just don't know
Yeah.
what to do.
That's exactly it. Yeah. Yeah. Because
Yeah,
nothing prepares you for it. Um,
yeah, exactly.
let- yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the writing of the album and how you put the songs together for it. You used to go into a rehearsal space every Wednesday afternoon. Can you tell us a little bit about the writing of the album?
Yeah, so I guess about 4 years ago, this began. I just started to think about all the records I'd made, my own and with other people, writing, playing, producing, all sorts of things. And I wanted to see, I guess a question that people kept asking me. Often people ask me, have you retired? Have you given up?
Mm.
And I'd say, well, I've made 4 albums this year. What makes you think I've retired? And of course, it's people weren't seeing me on a stage or seeing me under my own name. So it was like I didn't exist really, even though I was making all this music. And that was fine. I like that. I like just contributing quietly. But I started to wonder what exactly the me was in all this music, because there's all these records are made in with different processes and different production techniques and sounds and sound palettes, depending on who I was working with. And I just thought it'd be interesting to try and find out who I was in the middle of all of it, and to find it. And I thought the easiest way to do it was to go and play in the most pure fashion, go and get a guitar and a microphone, and just try and forget all of the everything about the recordings, and try and remember some songs, and try and find out what they sound like if one person was performing them, one person was delivering them. And through that process, inevitably I had to cut out the beautiful horn section, or the brilliant intro with the strings, or the drum machine, or whatever I was doing, and to say, right, well, all of those things go because I can't do them. So it was a process of finding out what the essence of a song was. What was the purest essence of a song, that I'd been involved with or written, mainly. And I found it really, really refreshing, like really challenging experience. And I found it things that I could do. First of all, I didn't go back and listen to anything. I don't really like listening to my own records after the event. So I just thought I'll try and remember things from memory, um, and try and remember as much as I could, and um, and just sing them. And if I couldn't remember parts, I'd think, well, be creative, do your job, be creative, and change something. If you can't remember the key, sing it in whatever key feels comfortable. If you can't remember the chord changes, make up some chord changes that work. If you can't remember the lyrics, sometimes I'd come across a lyric and think, oh, that wasn't very good, and I think, well, I'll just write something else that I feel is good. And I found it really, really great experience. And I did this, I did this for months and months, maybe a year or something. Do it most Wednesday afternoons. I just go and do it on my own. Um, there's so many elements to it, so many layers. Like, for example, there's no audience, no one was there with me. There was no one to say, is this good or bad? I just try and perform something and then think, how did I feel about it? You know?
Mm.
And so it's just important for me to do something for myself. Made a lot of music for other people and with other people, and where, it's about them. And I just felt it was about time in my life I did something for myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, do you sort of have a preference working with others collaboratively, or working like you've recently done on this album by yourself? Would you say you have a preference, or are you happy to do
No,
both?
yeah, no, I'm no preference. I like it all. I mean, at the moment, I'm enjoying doing this, and then I'll get bored and I'll do something else. Or, the way it's always happened. I've never really looked for things to happen. I've been very lucky that things have fallen at my feet. So good opportunities to work with people, have just sort of happened. It's a bit of a precarious lifestyle. I've not enjoyed it a lot of the time. A lot of the time down the years, I've really worried, like, wow, I'm finishing this record and I don't know what I'll be doing for the next 6 months. And then, you'd sit there for 3 weeks and panicking about it, and something turned up, and then you kind of throw yourself at it. Um, and I'm lucky that lots of those have turned into really good music, or just be with interesting people. I mean, there's all a lot as well that not no one ever heard, or writing that I did and stuff with people who got nowhere, and that that's part of it. But at the moment, I've set aside time to do this and saying this is what I want to do. And this is what I'm really enjoying. But also, the producing game has changed an awful lot in the last 15 years, and it's tilted very much towards pop music and the conveyor belts. Producers are also writers, engineers, performers, everything, and those performers, they you tend to be working on one song with somebody, and it doesn't really suit me, if I'm honest. Call me old fashioned or something, but I like being in a relationship. I like getting stuck in and seeing, well, one song that was quite good, but then the second song was better, and then by the time you're into four, you've got a relationship, and
Yeah.
and it makes it better as a whole because of that. And so when people write in a sort of pop, sort of conveyor belt fashion, there's people who are really good at it, and I'm just not very good at it. I don't like it. I want to go off on a tangent, and I find I work best when I'm in a relationship, a musical relationship. I get to know somebody. That's where it always works best for me. So
Yeah.
so at the moment, none of those opportunities have come up. And anyway, I'm really, really happy doing this. But there's definitely no preference. No.
Can you tell us a little bit about the song that we started with, Camber Sands? It's an amazing track. Can you just tell us a little bit about it
Oh,
and
thanks.
where it's come from? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. It's well, Camber Sands had an idea for a song called Camber Sands quite a long time ago, really. Had lots of sort of different ideas, and it started turning into something. And I wasn't really planning on making a record at the time. I just sort of started putting this together, but it always stayed with me. It's a place I go to. The song isn't really about Camber Sands, honestly. It's about I've done lots of journeys to the south coast and southeast coast of England. Somewhere I go, like on a bank holiday or something, we'll just head to the coast, or on holidays or rainy days. We say, just where do we go? Let's get out of London, And so a place along the southeast coast, and around Kent. It's a place called Mersey Island, which I really love going to a lot, in Essex, and the Suffolk coast, and the Norfolk coast. All those places are really great places for me. What it's really about is the feeling I'm a Londoner, I'm a city person, and I was born here. I'm stuck here in a way, and you often head to places like this and sort of stare at the sea and stare at how beautiful it all is, and you have these kind of profound feelings. You're away from everything, and there can be almost nobody there apart from yourself, your partner, or your dog, that kind of stuff, and they're really, really special moments of purity, and isolation, and I really like that about them. And so the song is really about the fact that I crave those moments of isolation and running away, and then the tragedy of it is I I turn around and go back to London every time. We always stand and say, like, wow, look at this beautiful place. Let's just buy a house and a boat, and stuff. Let's why are we living in London surrounded by police helicopters and noise and buses and stuff? What are we doing there? We should be in Frome, and Frome could be another place for me, or somewhere like that. And then of course I just head back to London, and so, and I guess what we're all trying to do when we do that is we're trying to leave ourselves. We're on a journey ourselves, and we need to go somewhere to see what we are, and to look back at what we are. And so there's a line about looking back at the city, and all the stories and the relics of the past. And that's about whenever I go to that southeast coast, I always end up on the M11 motorway heading back to London. And there's always a moment when the skyscape of London appears. You see Canary Wharf and the Shard and stuff, from the M11, and I just always think when I see that moment, I see it in front of me, it's like seeing my life, back facing at me, pulling me back in, like
Yeah.
so yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about playing live? Yeah, you're going to be going out on tour. Are you looking forward to that?
Yeah, I've been doing lots of shows over the last couple of years, quite sporadically, um, and really enjoying it. And so when the record comes out, there's a proper tour in June, and we are going to be in Bodmin and also Lyme Regis in your part of the world, also Bristol, which isn't so far,
Mhm.
and down there. So there's 3 shows down there.
Mm.
Um, and the show is just me. It's totally solo, and it's kind of sort of paying its respects to the that experience I was talking about in the rehearsal room, where it was just me. Without the record has lots of layers of instruments and various things going on, but I really enjoy just playing it on my own. I really enjoy the fact that every night when I play with just a couple of guitars and sing, every night I can reinvent the songs a little bit.
Yeah.
You can feel dynamically the songs change, and that's an awful lot to do with the audience. I always try and point this out during the show that it's so much people think of the performer as being the only performer in the room, and I feel like audiences are performers as well. They play a big role. And you walk into the room just before the show, you always know if it's going to be good.
Mm.
I always know when I come in, when people are in the room, and you're about to go on stage, you kind of know if it's going to be a good one or not. And you start to, and it's particularly when you play on your own. I don't have a band. I'm not playing next to a laptop or something. Where everything has to be quite disciplined.
Mm.
Everything is as improvised as I want it to be, and
Yeah.
I allow myself to twist and turn in whatever way feels right with the people in front of me, and what people are appreciating.
Mm. How do you know what is it about? What do you pick up? What vibe do you pick up, if that's the right word?
I have no idea, and
Mm.
I'm not a very spiritual kind of person. I don't get into all of that, but you definitely feel an energy in the room with audiences. I always know it. What I mean, for instance, I don't ever feel like have bad shows. All the shows I've done in the last couple of years, they've all been really enjoyable for different reasons.
Mm.
Um, and I think it's more because of the fact I'm on my own, you can feel, okay, how people are going to be. Are they going to be very quiet and respectful, or is it going to be a noisy, drunk Saturday night in the northeast of England? Or it's sometimes we play in a church, everyone acts a little bit like you're at church. And that can be really
Mm.
beautiful, but it can also be a little bit off-putting because it's almost like, come on, say something, don't be too shy. So you have to sort of feel how people are, and how people respond, and then it's up to me to respond to that and to perform in the right way.
Good luck with the tour, and good luck with the album. It's been
Thank you.
amazing chatting with you. Thanks ever so much for your
Thank you
time.
so much. Thanks so much for
Right.
having me in.